Hey guys, Ashley Shermer with BHHS Foster Realtors.
And Regina Ballard with Union Home Mortgage.
Today we want to go over the basic documents that you'll need to get pre-approved. So Regina, what would those documents look like?
Okay, we have a standard checklist that we give to everyone whenever we're doing the application process. Typically, you're going to need the last 2 years W-2s. You're going to need about 30 days of pay stubs. Sometimes I will get 45 just to be safe. Then you'll need a couple of months for bank statements for checking and savings, photo ID. Now, if there are anything specific for your case, like if you've been divorced or you get child support income, something like that, you'll get an updated request for those particular items specific to you. And again, all of that stuff can be uploaded when you do the application, or typically within a couple of days. It's very helpful to have that stuff in there so that way your income's accurate.
Okay, and so that's also including Social Security and disability and things like that?
Yes,
Is that what you're
correct.
referring to?
Okay.
Okay.
And we do loans all the time with someone on fixed income. That's not an issue either. So if you get Social Security, disability, or whatever, we can use that income.
So what if they're on a 1099?
We're definitely going to need 2 full years of federal tax returns. And the amount that we go by for the income is the bottom line after all the write-offs. And then sometimes we can add back in, mileage or something, but that catches people by surprise because a lot of times there's a lot of write-offs, so you don't have a whole lot to work with
Right.
as far as income.
And it has to be the same job for 2 years, correct?
Like for the self-employment, yes.
Yes. And then for W-2s, it doesn't have to be the same job.
Nope. With W-2, as long as you're like a full-time W-2 wage employee, it doesn't matter if you've switched jobs a time or two in the past 2 years. That's typically what we look at the past 2 years. And if you've switched jobs, if you didn't have a gap in the middle, everything's fine. It should just flow right over into the next job as far as the dates go.
Yeah, because I always get questions like, hey, Ashley, I just switched jobs, so I can't buy a house. Like, that's just a concern that people have. And I just want them to know that it doesn't have to be like that as long as it's still full-time, right? Mm-hmm. What if they switch different lines of business?
Actually, that's a good question because we have that a lot. That used to be something that was really concentrated on, is if they've switched jobs and it's a different line of work, then, you'd have extra hoops to jump through. Nowadays, as long as it's pretty similar going from one job to the other, and we can show that, hey, you're making $2 more over here than you were over there, we usually don't get questioned a lot on anything like that. And you can have more than one job. Usually if you've had 3 or more, we'll have to do an explanation on, why you're, changing jobs that often or something. As far as job gaps go, they usually, and by they, I mean like the loan products, if you've been off for less than 6 months in between jobs, most of the time it's just a letter of explanation. If it's over 6 months, they do consider that an extended leave from the workforce. If that's the case, we can do as little as 6 months back on the job.
So whenever people are relocating, how do you go about buying them a house?
We have a number of programs that will allow us to use future income. We will allow, in most cases, a job offer letter signed by Human Resources and also the borrower. As long as it's within 60 days of the closing date, your job is going to start, then, we can take that and use that income to qualify you.
Another thing I want to touch on was, what about whenever you're getting out of school? This is really for all my younger people because, I just graduated 2 years ago. So whenever they are getting out of college and they have a job offer, so they can still buy with that, can't they?
Yes, we can use that income that they're going to be getting within 30, 60 days, whatever it might be as far as the start date. Then we also, the cool thing about that on the school is that can count as your 2-year history.
Right. Yeah.
So if you went to school for 2 years to become a hygienist or whatever, now you're a hygienist. Well, we can use those 2 years of school or whatever, however long they go, as part of your 2-year work history.
But where they're not filing W-2s, what would they need for that?
That would just be a transcript.
Oh, okay.
Showing that you were in school during those
credit
times.
Hours.
Yeah, and then obviously you got your degree and then you started your current job with whatever field that might be.
Yeah, that's really convenient, especially for the younger people. Well, not even younger, but, doctors and whoever
Right.
else wants to just get out of college. Because most of the time you're not even working whenever you're in college.
Right.
Full time. So that's
or you're
really
doing
awesome.
work studies or something like that. So that's why we're allowed to use, in most cases, the school transcripts as job history.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.